Welcome back. If you grew up in the United States, you undoubtedly took an American history course in school, but what if the textbooks you read had it wrong? I'm joined by author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza, who shares a different version of the history in his book and film called America. Dinesh, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, okay, so for our audience who may not have been tuned into KCRS The Morning Drive this morning, where we had a very lengthy discussion about your book and film, what is America about?
It's a film that celebrates what America has meant to the world, and it's made from the point of view of an immigrant, me, who came to America at the age of 17. So the beauty of being an immigrant is you've lived in another culture. You come to America and you can compare it to some other existing society. Remember, people who are Americans take America for granted. There's nothing to compare it to.
Right.
And so I found in college, I went to college here, all kinds of people who are down on America. America did this, America did that. But I was always thinking to myself, compared to what? And finally now I've been able to make a film that looks at the criticisms of America, but also answers them and affirms what America has done for the world.
Absolutely. So we kind of have this distorted view of our country's history.
Well, part of what's happened is that, and this is happening not from abroad, but it's happening right here, the left, the progressives, if you will, the Obama guys, what they've done is they've given us a story of America, and it's a story of oppression. It begins with the evil Columbus who stole the country from the Native Americans. It continues with slavery, on through the Mexican War. We stole half of Mexico,
right.
And it comes right all the way to the present, where our foreign policy and our economic system are said to be forms of theft. Mm-hmm. Now, what I do is I basically say, wait a minute, it's not that these facts that the progressives say are not true. It's just that they're leaving out large parts of the story, which if you knew them, would change your interpretation of the facts.
Kind of like the contextual cues, where, like we talked about this morning about slavery and the kind of conquest of Native America as being the two main topics, whereas slavery, we talked about how that was an economic solution, or
yeah, I think in all these things, there are all kinds of questions you can ask. So, for example, the Spanish, remember, first of all, Columbus never even landed in America. So we shouldn't be blamed for Columbus because he never even got to this part of the world. He got south of the United States.
Right.
But when the Europeans got here, the Native Americans who had land, here's the first question: how did they get it? Well, the answer is they took it from some other tribe. There were innumerable tribes, and all the strong tribes had defeated the weak tribes and taken the land by force. So this, what I call the ethic of conquest, this has occurred from the dawn of mankind.
Right.
There was nothing new going on. And so when people say, oh, the poor Native Americans, well, the poor Native Americans were doing exactly the same thing before the Europeans got here.
Right. And then you had some interesting things to say about slavery as well, or the way we perceive slavery.
Well, one point we're thinking about is when the founders got together to form a country. First of all, slavery was already there. It had been instituted by the British. We inherited it. Mm-hmm. And so the founders said, what can we do about it? And there are 13 states. Slavery is legal in every one of them. And so when the left says, well, why didn't they outlaw slavery? Well, first of all, no southern state for sure would have joined the Union, which forbade slavery from the beginning. We wouldn't even have had a United States. We might have had 8 different countries, and slavery might have lasted much longer. So
right.
This is when you think about history, you always have to look at the actual options available to people when they're making decisions.
Mm-hmm. And we kind of talked about paying the debt. Robert Hallmark had a few things to say about how a lot of leftists talk about how
we owe a debt.
We owe a debt for slavery.
Yeah, and I think part of what we've got to remember when we think about all those things is we remember that debts have already been paid along the way. So take the Civil War. Now, 300,000 Northern Union soldiers died in that war, right? What about them? I mean, wasn't that part of a debt? Now, they died to secure for the slaves a freedom that sadly the slaves could not have secured for themselves. The philosopher Emerson said it wasn't the revolution of the oppressed, it was the repentance of the tyrant,
right.
Which is a way of saying a debt discharged.
Right. Well, very good. Well, where can we see your film and buy your book?
The movie's called America. It's still in some theaters. It started out in 1,000 theaters. It's done very well. It's the number 6 most successful political documentary ever made. AmericaTheMovie.com is our website. You can see where it's still playing. The book is just called America. Same title as the movie, available everywhere. So easy to get the book.
All right.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever.
Perfect. Well, Dinesh, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.